Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Listen to Pavarotti.
Can I be your superhero?
Hello, welcome to The Revealing. I'm your host, Pavarotti, and I'm here to discuss the Idaho 4 case. This is going to be part one of a series that I'm going to focus on for the next few days called the Mortensen Files, because as I have gone through and reviewed all of the other interviews with Dylan and the new interview that I'd been waiting on for so long with Aaron Williamson, FBI forensic interview specialist, and we now have most of the transcript from that interview, as I'm going to show as I go through this series. What they removed from that interview is, shockingly just glaring right in your face, shows you everything that they want to hide in this case. And I guess even the defense wanted to hide it because this is their attachments to their motion. It's quite clear that it's likely either the defense knew this stuff and didn't want it to come out, or they were led by their experts that apparently are experts in nothing, as I'm learning in this case, that prosecution, state, FBI, they're all experts in nothing. And they need to remove this term expert. All right, there's no expert. There's somebody that thinks they know stuff and ignores evidence apparently, and people that don't. That's the difference. But one thing is very clear as we start going through this, and what I always try to do is take everything in totality that we know about the case, because even to this day, we know so much more about this case than we did last month with the autopsy results that came out after we've broken those down. I have such a good idea of every injury on the victims. I already knew every piece of evidence that was tested in this case. I heard Ron from Custody Queens the other day saying, well, these experts know more than we know. We got to understand that. And he said that there was blood in the kitchen found. Ron, those experts don't know more than you know. They don't know more than anybody knows. They know less. In fact, if you would just go read the forensic documents, they're all out, listed 1 through 44, going from 2023 all the way up until 2025 to the trial date. There isn't any missing that would show blood evidence tested for Xana in the kitchen, because there isn't any blood in the kitchen that even tested positive for orthotolidine. So when people want to talk on this case, but they're not willing to take the time to go through and actually look at the things necessary to be able to take some guest and tell them when they're lying and when they're not, I got nothing for them. You're not bringing anything of value to this case, in my humble opinion, if you don't actually take the time to do that stuff. But anyways, well, Bob, you just take more time than other people. Yeah, well, you know what? I've had to put things off to take the time I've taken to be able to come out here and talk about this thing. And that's what I'm going to do in this one. Because as we get into the interview with Dylan, I'm going to focus on her first statements. Because what I like to do is test my hypothesis, my entire theory of events in this case from start to finish, and see if it marries up with evidence. And when I listen to things like statements from Dylan, I take everything into context around them. I take everything into context around the statements and the questions that are being asked and what may have taken place even before they were asked. What is the context of the interview? And that's what I'm going to focus on in this one. And I'm going to keep it really simple, because when you keep it really simple and you apply evidence, facts that you already know to what you're hearing, it can really lead you to the truth. And the truth certainly isn't, well, you can't believe anything Dylan says. That'll never get you to the truth. All that'll do is get you spinning your wheels. Look for the things that can be verified as truth. Look for the things that can be verified as false. Then you'll know in the end what you're looking at as far as the truth. Hold on to your hats, folks. Dylan part 1 coming right at you. Now it's time to really get into the nitty gritty of what everybody's been waiting for. And it's really important, I feel, for people to keep an open mind when looking at the words given throughout all of the interviews of one Dylan Mortensen. And I think it's also important to understand the context around the one interview that I've been waiting to see forever, which is the December interview with FBI agent Aaron Williamson. And now that we have most of the transcripts from that, as I'll show you as we do a full breakdown of it, they've cut out very important parts of that transcript as well, though. And it's interesting to me every time they cut it out what it pertains to. You'll find out as we go through. But I think one thing is important to understand in the context of this interview is who is conducting it. And it is Aaron Williamson of the FBI. And what is her specialty? And we can see right here, this is presenting evidence in the forensic interview, because that's what this is considered, a forensic interview. And who does forensic interviews? Well, we can see right here in 2023, it's offering the words of Aaron Williamson, child adolescent forensic interviewer, FBI, Victim Services Division, Child Victim Services Unit. Aaron Williamson has been a CAFI. I'm gonna child adolescent forensic interviewer with the FBI since August of 2018 and covers Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Alaska. Previously, she was a forensic interviewer and program coordinator with a CAC in New Hampshire for nearly 10 years. So Aaron Williamson has a lot of experience in these forensic interviews, and she specifically focuses on child and adolescents. Now, I think it's important to note, and I would sure like to really watch the seminar on this, but you have to register to watch the seminar, so I'm not going to do that. But I do know this. Let's see, go back. Overview. When we look at the overview of presenting evidence in the forensic interview, it talks about this seminar that they would give, and it tells you about how technology has impacted how children and adolescents are victimized. Research tells us that the use of technology during victimization can decrease the likelihood of victim disclosure. Reluctant children may need more cues, which may mean utilizing evidence in the forensic interview. This training will provide foundational information and address advanced topics in presenting evidence in the forensic interview, with a focus on equipping CACs to provide forensic interviews in FBI cases. In the first half of this training, participants will Wow, y'all are great. Will learn foundational information on how evidence may be used in a forensic interview, how to present evidence, and gain an understanding of the dynamics of victims of abuse images. The second half will delve deeper into the components introduced in the first session, addressing advanced topics including highlighting the types of evidence and use of evidence in more complex cases. And what they're basically referring to here is the use of evidence that they will present to the person that they are interviewing in a forensic interview to gain the information that they're needing. So participants will be introduced to various types of evidence, such as audio clips, subject statements, text messages, and more. Participants will also learn the importance of the pre-interview MDT discussion regarding case and evidence availability and how to use the evidence in more complex cases such as kidnappings and surreptitious recordings while attending the needs of the victims. So one of the things that they point out specifically is whenever a FBI agent is doing a forensic interview, is there is a pre-interview, a process, pre-interview MDT discussion regarding case and evidence availability and how to use it in more complex cases, meaning there's a pre-interview discussion with the person they're interviewing, and there is probably going to be some things going on in these pre-interview discussions that allows the person that they're interviewing to give them more truths in a way that indemnifies their mind, if that makes sense. The reason that I point this out is because when you look at the way that the interview with Williamson and Mortensen starts, it starts with some very strange context around Dylan and dreams that she is having. It seems very odd to most people, but it's my opinion that during this pre-interview process, these MDT discussions, that likely Williamson has prompted Dylan to explain things in a way such as, interpreting a dream when trying to elicit the information from her. Does that make sense? I'm going to do a little bit more research on these pre-interview discussions and what could be taking place to try to get a better understanding of why Williamson is allowing Dylan to explain things in the form of a dream. And then we'll go into actually looking at the interview and the things that I've pulled that I believe are important. Okay, and I found the Department of Justice manual, and it's typically for a different type of person. What is a forensic interview? The goal of a forensic interview is to obtain a statement from a child or adolescent in developmentally sensitive, unbiased, and legally defensible manner that will support accurate and fair decision-making in the criminal justice and child welfare systems. So I guess where they originate the system for these forensic interviews for adolescents that Aaron Williamson specializes in comes from mostly trafficking cases, apparently. But it goes on to tell you all about how they conduct the interviews, what their goals are, where to begin, protocols and guidelines. I mean, this thing really kind of lays it out as a PowerPoint training manual by the Department of Justice. So I'll put the link in the description of this video so that if y'all want to go look that up yourself and see how these interviews are supposed to be conducted, you can. And I think it gives a really good understanding of what Aaron Williamson was trying to do with Dylan in this interview. Well, let's go ahead and look at the excerpts I've pulled from that interview to see what we can glean. Go through this, there's a lot of this interview that they've released that we never get to see. For example, when the interview starts, the first thing you hear is the interviewer, Aaron Williamson, say something inaudible. Yeah, there's a ton we always go to. This is obviously a conversation that's been in play for quite a bit before this right here, because they're talking about, where they're shopping for stuff. So the entire opening of this interview is missing. This is likely when dream talk happened during this portion and how Dylan could use it. So very important to keep in mind that we're not seeing this entire interview, and the parts that we're not seeing, I think, are very interesting. And I'm not going to go through all the stuff that I don't feel like's important, because I think it becomes important when it gets to right here. So I know you spoke with Vicky a few weeks ago, meaning Gooch. Yeah. Okay, so anything since then that has kind of come up for you, things that you didn't get a chance to talk about then that you want to get a chance to talk about now. And then Dylan immediately goes in, and this is the only time that I've found in this whole thing where she refers to dreams. So it's almost like this whole opening is her indemnifying herself and maybe giving some truth out in the form of a dream. But I find what her dreams say very interesting. I guess the biggest thing was, like, that night, meaning the night of the crime, I kept having dreams of someone just dressed in black. Like there was a dream that there was this woman who was just like pranking people. Uh-huh. And she'd go to the houses and wear black, and it was like some joke. And then I met her, and she's super nice. And then I was talking to my therapist about this. I don't remember if this was like because I've always had really bad dreams. Like I've watched Criminal Minds. I always lucid dreams a lot. So scary lucid dreams, but I know I'm dreaming. So it's like, it doesn't really matter. But sometimes I don't have lucid dreams. I think the only thing, as we go through this, you got to pick the fly shit out of the black pepper. She's indemnifying in the form of a dream. She's definitely talking about that night and the person that she saw that was dressed in black. And now she's identifying that person in her mind as a woman wearing the black. I think what we're going to find in just this opening statement alone is Dylan is going to describe seeing two different individuals. But I don't think it was one of the dreams, but it was like the figure and like all black and like the kind of mask, because again, I don't know exactly what kind of mask it was, but it was like he was running, but with high knees. So right here, I think she's actually talking about two different things. Running with high knees. She's not going to see somebody running with high knees past her door. So in this motion with all of this information, the defense included two photos, both of them showing the view that Dylan would have when she opened her door. This one being a low view and this one being a higher view. And in neither one of these views, I think you would agree, would Dylan be able to see somebody running with high knees. And she describes two completely different events, the person running and the person she sees standing and looking at her. And I believe the person that she's actually talking about that's standing and looking at her is the one that she's referring to as a woman. And the other one, she's obviously seen looking out her window. As you can see right here in her room, you can clearly see the crack in the window right here where you could see out, but you also see where the drapes have been bent right here where you can see where she actually opened them and peeked out. The most likely place that she saw this person that was running awkwardly. And I went back through the original photos that were released, and I finally found a picture of the outside of Dylan's room, and you can see with the curtains pulled back, I mean, she would have a pretty good view of anybody going out the back slider and running awkwardly towards the Queen Road apartments, it appears. Let me know your thoughts on that. We've already talked about in her bedroom where the curtains look like they've been pulled back, that if she did see somebody walking past her door, you can bet she would have ran straight to that window if she thought they were going out the back door and opened it and looked. I think she actually has seen two people that night. I think the person that she has seen at her door was a woman. And I think she looked out the back window of her room and she actually saw somebody else running, because we know there's more than two perpetrators in this crime now. So we got to be able to dig in and look for the cues that gives us the closest to the truth, in my humble opinion. But she goes on to say he's like almost prancing around, which was kind of weird. And I kept getting that mixed up, if that was like real or if that was a dream. That's how a lot of this is. Like, I don't know exactly what parts are real and what parts are a dream. Indemnification right here. But as it continues, okay, and you were talking about the dream with the woman. No, so like that, there was like the woman dream. And there's another one. Another one. So we've got one and we've got two here. I couldn't remember if that like maybe he was running, or if he was walking, or if that was the dream of him, just like, oh, running. Absolutely starting to differentiate. She's seeing two different people, a woman and a man. One of them was running. The only way she's going to see somebody running is out her back window. It was just like an awkward run, I would say. It was like really high knees. So a weird running person. And the woman, one I knew was a dream. Yeah, well, the woman one I knew was a dream. Yeah, right. She's differentiating this dude running and this woman. I could tell that one was. The second one, I didn't really know. Tell me about how you could tell the first one was the one with the woman was definitely a dream. I don't. So there's no telling what's happened in this pre-interview. Dream could even be some kind of code word that she's allowed her to use in this. I don't. So usually when my dreams, because I lucid dream, I can control my dreams. Usually it's like, oh, like I know I'm dreaming. Like I 100% know. And then it's like I can control what's happening. And for some reason, when I woke up and remember that dream, I immediately knew it was a dream because it wasn't like certain people around me that I knew. That's how. So that's how I knew. And then in the second one, there wasn't other people around. It was when I was in my room and it was opening the door that he was like running. When I was in my room and it was like opening the door that he was like running. Or either she's looked out the back glass or she's opened the door and she's seen two different things. A woman standing there, now a guy running out the back. Okay. But I didn't know if he was going, like if it was exactly in the house or not. It was just weird, which again lends me to believe she's looking out the back glass and seeing somebody running that wasn't in the house. And I couldn't like fully understand when I woke up that like was a dream or not. And I guess like when I woke up that morning, everything was just like what the F happened. Now, this is where her dreaming stops, right here. And I've got to do a little bit more investigating into the methods used in these forensic interviews as it relates to these dreams and what's allowed and what's not. And I would sure like to hear the opening of this thing to see what she's allowed Dylan to describe as a dream and what not. But it tells me just from the opening of this, if I'm looking at it from a straight perspective of what I know about the crime and what she's saying here, it looks to me like she's describing two events. One being a woman, likely to being the woman was the one that she's seen dressed in black wearing the balaclava, and likely a man she's seen probably out of her window running away from the house. Let me know your thoughts. So when looking at that, and I know that there are 4 perpetrators in this crime. I know it from the crime scene. I know it from the fact that there is no blood transfer from the victims on the 3rd floor into the room with the victims on the 2nd floor. I know that because of the wounds on the victims. I know that because of the blood trail that's leading down from the 2nd floor to the 1st floor with blood evidence of transfer from Ethan and the perpetrator on the handrails. I know that perpetrators went out the rear sliding door because there's a bloody fingerprint and a witness saying that she's seen them. Now, I wouldn't be so sure if that witness isn't describing 2 different people that she had seen. So, and I know that likely because of the fight that happened with Xana, one of the perpetrators was likely a female. So when I start marrying up everything that I know along with these statements and trying to figure out what's true and what's not, I can see what's lining up with the truth. And let me know your thoughts on this one, because we're not going to stop here. There was a lot that was divulged in that interview with Williamson, but there's also a lot that you can gather from grand jury testimony, that interview, all of her other interviews, what they want to focus on, what they want to hide. And by the end of this series, I'm going to make sure that everybody that follows me has a clear indication of the truth of the matter in this case. And a lot of the truth can be gathered from the statements of Dylan Mortensen. The next video on the object the person was carrying will be a bam shell, I assure you. Please like and subscribe to this channel. Post your comments, thoughts, criticisms. Till next time, Pops out.